This is a wilderness which is as fragile as it is dangerous, hostile and volatile. Many have looked and still look at this uncompromising region and understand that of all the seeds that are scattered and windblown here, despair is what often grows best. This is the land of the mirage, and that has less to do with reality than with hope and yearning. The Middle East, the land of delusion as well as illusion. An abundance of subterranean riches has produced today's Saudi capital Riyadh, a designer city raised on prehistoric desert. Saudi Arabia is the epicenter of two great icons of worship, the petrodollar and Islam. Saudis are protective of these twin but opposing cornerstones, taking care to ensure their convergence is one of integration, not fragmentation. There is no conflict between the old faith, culture and science. Oil dollars can buy the most up-to-date technology, and there's no reluctance or shortage of expertise to use it. The question for these two little sisters, though, is whether dollars and prayers are enough to save them. Fatima and Zahara, twins bonded by flesh and blood, inseparable by the same, unified also in a desperate struggle for life. They were born conjoined into the poorest of families in a Baghdad suburb in the midst of daily brutality and misery. January 2006, Sada City, Baghdad, a maternity hospital where much needed yet basic medical equipment is as rare as a peaceful day. Beneath the old blanket, the tiny bundle of heartbreak which has so distressed and traumatized the young woman sitting alongside. She'd been told she was carrying twins, but no one told her their condition. No one told her because the doctors had no equipment to tell them. On such brittle foundations, our new lives begun. But this mother was not about to surrender her babies without a fight.
I was told I was expecting twins, but they didn't say they would be conjoined. They didn't know until after I gave birth.
She said she became very sad when she first saw her babies, and she now felt sad each day.
If the babies are still alive, I hope that all the countries can listen to me, and I ask them to help if there is any way to separate my twins.
Majda's doctor had persuaded the mother to use the ever-present media in Iraq to carry her appeal.
In Iraq, there is militias, there is United States armies, there is bombs everywhere. We have a deficiency in the number of doctors, in instruments, in the supplies, other things, even oxygen.
When the clouds bring gloom over Baghdad, they are rarely of nature's making. A single cry for help from Iraq doesn't travel very far these days. There are just too many of them. But there is always one seed which finds fertile ground. For Majda, within 24 hours, the offers of help came pouring in. This young mother's voice had been heard around the world by individual doctors, by hospitals, by those who just wanted to help any way they could. And they were heard by a king. King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia was abroad on a state visit, and at the end of a very important day, kings do watch television, and they sometimes listen and are sometimes moved to help.
He called me. He said, "You've seen that?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Could you help surgically?" I said, "Okay." And he directed me to directed the organization to bring the twins.
Within 1 week, by a royal decree and by a Saudi air ambulance, the twins arrived at the National Guard Hospital in Riyadh. With them, their mother and father, and their 1-year-old brother Ali. All of them malnourished and suffering numerous infections. They were so ill, the doctors admitted them immediately. It was 2 weeks before they could leave the wards. The babies weighed less than 3 pounds each. they too had fungal growths and infections.
The twins, if they didn't come to Saudi Arabia, they would have died because they came to us very sick with the bad infections, fungus infections and bacterial infections, and they stayed in the intensive care unit about 15 weeks actually. Very, very bad condition.
The twins will have to grow stronger if they are to survive surgery. That will take time, and given their present condition, one here knows just how much time these two little sisters have.
Iraqi twins actually are joined in the chest, abdomen and pelvis. They share a liver. They share also the distal part of the small bowel. They share the large bowel, which is the colon. They share one anal canal and anus. They share one urinary system, which is abnormal. They share also one genital system, which is also abnormal. They have crossing vessels around them from one twin to the other. They have also one lower limb to each one of them, and there is a shared rudimentary lower limb between the twins, which is not good for either one of them. The case is complex because the surface area is large. There will be a large defect which needs to be covered after also the separation.
The doctors are worried. They have great affection for these two little babies, but medical determination may not be enough to save them.
They're precious, like all life. It's precious. Until it's all done, until they are fully healed, it's a lot of worry actually, because you want to do the best for them. You want to make sure that you have done the right thing, and you don't want to hurt them. You know, the original teaching of medicine is do no harm. So actually sometimes when people get complications from whatever procedure and so forth, they don't know how much it affects their doctor more than it affects them.
Even if they grow stronger, if they are to be separated, Fatima and Zahra will have to withstand a massive, violent but controlled assault on their tiny bodies, a prolonged attack which for a healthy young adult would be demanding. On these two babies it could be fatal. Like major hospitals anywhere in the world, the National Guard Hospital in Riyadh deals daily in life and death. Children get hit by cars anywhere there are roads, and doctors try and mend them. But behind the daily routine of casualty and ward life, there's continued preparation for the twins' surgery, and the medical teams are constantly briefed on the children's welfare and progress. The plastic surgeons will have to repair the girls after surgery. In essence, they will cosmetically restore the two babies once the final cut of separation is made. They will have to make the children fit into whatever is left of their bodies. The calculations must be precise.
As you can see, this is the line that separates, the imaginary line that would separate these two children. And we estimated that we do not have enough tissue to go around once we have separated these two children.
To help the reconstruction team, the girls have had tissue expanders fitted. 2 balloons filled with saline have each week gradually been inflated beneath their skin. It's created valuable extra centimetres.
This initially was a very flat surface, and now as you can see we have a bulge that is, in surgical terms, it means extra tissue that we can utilize once we remove this balloon. It'll be redundant skin, you can imagine.
Dr. Rabir, who has led all the previous separation surgeries, has called in the parents, Majda and husband Haider, to give them his team's assessment. Ali's little sisters will have only a 60% chance of surviving the surgery. And as much as Dr. Rabir tells Majda and Haider about the chances of life for their twins, he also tells them about the risks of death.
I tell them that they should expect death. As I told the parents of the Iraqi twins, they expect death, they should expect complications, and they should also expect that they will be in hospital for a long time with a long recovery.
But aren't there alternatives? Sacrifice one twin, save the strongest. It would not be the first time that a medical dilemma had been so resolved.
If you have total, complete bodies, brains and hearts, and they are potentially, each one of them could survive, I would not sacrifice one twin for the other. I think that's against the ethics, against the religion, against my principles.
Which one of these twins would their mother have allowed to die? To which daughter would their father have pointed and said to the doctors, "Take her"? Because 14 years ago, these young teenagers' parents would have faced the same repulsive thought. Born in the Sudan, Sama and Hiba were joined at the chest, abdomen and pelvis, similar to the Iraqi twins. 14 years ago, when they were 18 months old, they were separated by the Riyadh team. In surgery, they would fight together and survive together.
I think the Iraqi parents should thank God because it's a good thing to have twins.
Their father confesses he was upset and disappointed when he first saw his conjoined twin babies, but he was more worried about finding someone to separate them. He's now remarried and also has twins by his second wife. Their home life is happy, though humble, and they are accepted by their neighbours in this Saudi village. Though having been separated for 14 years, the twins are more than content to be together. Sometimes they naturally drift close to each other. One sisterly hand seeking another, touching because they want to, not through necessity. It's a life the Iraqi babies will mirror if they survive. It's 10 months now since Marshtad and Haider left Baghdad to pursue their dream of a normal life for their twin baby girls. They've been living in a hospital apartment. Their son Ali is now 2 years old, and Marshtad is also pregnant with their fourth. And families with a history of twins are at the greatest risk of having conjoined babies. The odds are 1 in 100,000.
What is less well known and understood is what the rate is in conceptions. There is a progressive wastage which takes place due to miscarriage, and of course more recently with the almost universal use of ultrasound in developed countries, these are increasingly detected during the pregnancy, and women are offered the possibility of termination of pregnancy, and a lot of them accept that.
And I always tell the people that if the conjoined twins are diagnosed early and they have major abnormalities that will pose either a handicap or higher complications for their life, then we should consider abortion.
The journey for Fatima and Zahra thus far has been difficult and uncertain. But if the word fortunate can be applied to them, it is only because they are still alive. In Western countries, the incidence of conjoined twins, depending on the country, averages from 1 in 50,000 births to 1 in 200,000. But in Southeast Asia and Africa, there's a dramatic increase in risk, from 1 in 14,000 births in some countries to 1 in 25,000 in others. 6 out of 10 sets of twins are stillborn. 4 out of 10 live no more than a few days, which makes Fatima and Zahra at 11 months quite exceptional. Conjoined twins grow from one seed. They share identical DNA. While there are dozens of different types of joining, doctors have grouped them into a number of categories, including craniophagus, where the twins are joined at the head. Separation is possible, but brain damage is also common. Paraphagus, here separation is possible, although a life with artificial limbs is the result. Ischiophagus, these have shared intestines, bladder, genitals and kidneys. The survival rate is normally good. Omphaloplagus, where the twins often have a shared liver. This type of twin has the highest survival rate. The liver can be divided. It is the only organ which can regenerate itself, making separation possible. Since 1990, the National Guard Hospital has become a world-renowned centre for conjoined twin separation. They've successfully performed more than a dozen operations on babies from Poland, Egypt, Morocco, Cameroon, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Malaysia and the Philippines. There are surgical centres of excellence in the United States, in Britain, Europe and the Far East, but the Riyadh expertise in a team which has worked together in the same hospital for more than a decade offers a bank of finely honed skills, trust and practice.
The crucial factor here, there are probably two, and they're interrelated. One is concentrating experience so that the case selection, which is most important, is done properly on the basis of all the scientific evidence plus the experience that's been gathered in that centre. And then the actual process, the surgical procedures which are complex and multidisciplinary, that's also something that doesn't come together overnight. So I think that if one is going to be doing this sort of thing, and I think it's reasonable that that should be done, it should be concentrated in very few centres.
Even with the surgical and nursing team already in place at the hospital, the cost of separation surgery is high, $1 million plus, enviable to those countries who place an upper price limit on some medical treatment.
Do we, for example, determine the life and health by money? And because you could come somebody who has a heart disease, tell them, sorry, your operation is $60,000, I will do an appendix, which is $3. So you can go and die. And this is difficult because that means that you will treat only the wealthy. So wealthy will be treated and the poor will not be given the treatment. So I'm against saying that you should just treat the wealthy and leave the poor. As a matter of fact, you should give, there is no differences when it comes to health, whether you are a king or you are a maid. So they should be equal in terms of chances of treatment.
If the team think that there is a reasonable chance of success and that the quality of life, again that's difficult to define, but if they think that there is a good chance, then I don't think one can say it's a waste of money. And indeed, to have it focused in a centre of excellence, expensive though it may be, ensures that the money is not wasted as much as if it were being done here and there in smaller hospitals where the expertise didn't exist and where the possibility of failure was going to be much higher.
For Majda and Haider, there is only one decision. They want their daughters to undergo the operation.
I took my wife to hospital and the doctor examined her and did an X-ray. He told me that she had another month to go. She had the twins at 12 that day. I was very shocked when I saw them and I went and told my wife she had conjoined twins and all the people came in to look at them.
I loved them when I saw them first, not like normal babies, and I was very shocked, but I did love them. When I saw them first, I didn't have any hope that they would survive.
They believe that separation is the key to their future. Returning to Baghdad without trying is not an option.
If we didn't come here, where would we go? I didn't have any money to go anywhere else, and I would just have taken the babies home with no hope of separation.
First light tomorrow, Fatima and Zahra will be prepared for surgery. So will the medical team. They will work a day and a night until dawn the next day, or for as long as it takes. The parents have said their goodbyes in private. The surgeons are preparing themselves. They have fasted overnight, now they seek another strength. It's 7:30 in the morning. The twins are already on the table. They're relaxed. Sedating the twins has been predicted at 2.5 hours. Unless Fatima and Zahra go unconscious at about the same time as each other, the whole procedure will have to be cancelled. The margins are slim. Since they first opened their eyes in a Baghdad hospital 11 months ago, they have lived daily with doctors and nurses, gowns and masks. If they survive, it's the outside world that may be more frightening. The anaesthesia team have the most delicate role. They must put the babies to sleep for the duration, now predicted to be 20 hours of non-stop surgery. The technology is the best available, but the line the scalpel will follow is drawn by a felt-tip pen. It is the line of separation.
We are starting the cutting now, cutting the incision between the twins.
It's the first time this team has ever performed separation surgery using tissue expanders. The expanders have to work. There has to be enough surplus tissue to put the girls back together. If there is apprehension in here today, it's about mending the damage. The liver is first to be separated. The surgical team are using a laser scalpel, which cauterizes as it cuts. The entire operation is being recorded. It's also being played live into a viewing theatre close by. Marston and Haida, perhaps surprisingly, have chosen to come and watch their daughter's progress. They may not have wanted to be here, but it may have been more difficult to stay away and wait for a stranger to bring news. They saw and heard Dr. Rabia complete the division of the liver.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We just finished separating the liver. Give me a suture.
Some moments, though, are just too much. Parents who hug and cuddle babies who fall and scrape their knees are perhaps not best suited to stand and watch their children being cut apart, even though that is their wish. On the island of Cebu in the Philippines, in one of the poorer suburbs of Mandaue City, a couple are raising their 3 daughters. 2 of them, Anne and May, were born conjoined. They were separated in Riyadh in the spring of 2004. They play with their elder sister Michelle, who's 6, but they play indoors.
I make sure that the children don't get sick or that they don't go out. The children stay inside. They go out when it's not so hot outside. I let the children stay indoors. They only play among themselves.
Joe Mari Manzo works in the garments industry. His wife runs a tiny shop from their home, but this is a family which has little spare cash. This is how the twins were. An improved life, an independent and mobile future, these are the simple aims that guide all judgments on separation. And where surgery is possible, it's the parents who must decide separate or not. This father, though, wished he'd said no. He's emphatic when asked if he would go through it all again, emphatic that he wouldn't.
No. Even during the birth, there were problems, big expenses. I couldn't believe my children could turn out like this. I had to borrow 50,000 pesos from my neighbors because my wife had to give birth by cesarean section.
But if they weren't separated, we would have had bigger problems. The twins would not have been able to walk. They could only lie down. We would have had even bigger problems. Through the pity of God, someone came to help, and we're grateful.
In this house, Mum and Dad do not seem readily given to a cheery smile, and neither do the children. It seems their life is an effort, coping with the aftermath of separation and continuing treatment. The parents are struggling, each in their own way, with whatever the future will bring, and maybe realizing that it won't be a lot.
The babies are stable, and from what we have seen so far, we are optimistic. There will be challenges in the coming few hours, but we are confident that things will go as planned.
They are well ahead of schedule. The two little Iraqis are doing what everybody thought. They're fighting. In some hospitals around the world, doctors have begun to perform separation surgery, and then, during the procedure, they've stopped and decided to go no further. During a break from theatre, Dr. Azawi explains the point of no return.
I would venture to say that a point of no return of separation would be once the pelvis has been result. So once the orthopedic and plastic surgery separation is done in the pelvis and the lower limb, I would say that that would be the point of no return. But at the same time, that will be a point of major success in the operation, and that means we're going forward.
The twins were born with just 2 legs. The division will leave them with each needing an artificial leg. The cruel irony is that the twins were also born with a well-formed third but rudimentary leg. It can, however, never be a useful limb. But it is one of the most valuable parts of the babies for the surgeons. It's not such a wasted limb as a quarter may be of the extra skin and tissue which will help to cover the gaping wounds. 12 hours and 46 minutes in, and then the moment of separation, the final cut. The twins are quickly covered in towels and moved an inch apart, and then gently another inch. Never have they been so far away from each other. Fatima and Zahra are no longer inseparable. They're together only in spirit. This journey, which has travelled just a few inches, has taken 11 months, a lifetime for these two sisters. The distance between them is growing. It is the first step to a lifetime of independence. The relief and happiness of the parents is clear. I am flying with happiness, says Haider, more and more happy with each moment, he says. Marja says she wants to pick up the twins and hold them. She'll have to wait a little longer before she can touch them. Her girls are apart, but never has she felt closer to them. There's a rush to say thank you to all the team, to anyone who wears a gown and mask. And waiting for a quieter moment at the back of the crowd, Majda just wants to be alone with her daughters. Tonight, or what's left of it, the patients will sleep in separate beds. The ventilators in the intensive care unit are keeping them breathing. The rest is up to the twins. Heavily sedated, all the signs are encouraging. During the whole surgical procedure, they lost less than a cupful of blood. They are remarkably resilient.
Okay. Her chest is good. But there is a lot
The danger hasn't passed. If anything, there's now a higher risk to the children from infection. In the unit this day are infants suffering from viral bronchitis, whooping cough and other illnesses. The twins will be kept in isolation for 2 weeks or longer until it's judged that the threat of infection has passed.
They are fighters. They fight for their life, so which is good. I admire them because I knew them before operation. They went from problem to problem to problem, but they fight for their life. And I hope they continue to fight.
They're tiny and they can't speak, but they communicate in a way the doctors are trying to understand. They show signs of missing each other already, even though they're mostly sedated.
In this age, we depend mainly on what we call a vital signs and behavior. Our nurses, bedside nurses, are the best people to tell us because all of a sudden the heart rate is high, the blood pressure is high, and they cannot manage it. They give medication, they try to cuddle them. So the main question, is she missing her sister? So once we put them together, everything settled down like magic. So it tell you there is a separation. We call it an anxiety separation.
There is always a price to pay, and the gift of separate lives doesn't come cheap. The girls have had major reconstructive surgery, which will affect them for the rest of their lives.
I'll be also talking with the parents how to take care of them because they will still need much of a nursing care at home, how to take care of these reconstructed urinary system until they are, big enough to take care of themselves.
3 days on, time to wake up.
Hello, yes, hello.
This is a nice view.
Hello, hi. Zahra, hi.
Remove your tube, huh?
Yes, hello.
The twins have been unconscious since the operation, but today they're coming off the ventilators.
Tell us, when you are ready, just so that okay, he's removing the tube now. Okay, yes. Oh, here she is.
The atmosphere has noticeably relaxed. There's still anxiety, but there's also quiet satisfaction and humour. The surgeons say they'll come back later after prayer time and change the dressings. Come back anytime, says Dr. Hala. We're open 24 hours.
احنا فاتحين 24 ساعة.
4 الفجر يا أحمد ولا 4 العصر؟
Shortly after Fatima and Zahra were born, another set of conjoined twins from the same neighbourhood were delivered at the same Baghdad hospital, but they died within a few hours. So is stress from a war-torn society a factor in twin malformation?
There have been many other situations of stress. Vietnam, Second World War bombing, there's been no evidence of an increase in conjoined twins in those circumstances either.
When Talia and Talene were born in Egypt in 2003, they were joined at the chest and abdomen. Their mother had been told to expect twins, but no one knew or expected problems. She was never scanned. When they were 4 months old, the twins were operated on by the Riyadh team, and they return occasionally to see the doctors and to visit their grandparents. The 2 girls are now thriving. They're normal kids, say their parents. That the Riyadh programme exists to help some of the world's more unfortunate families is because of one man, the King of Saudi Arabia. The world's richest monarch has channeled some of his personal wealth into funding the surgery, the families and post-operative treatment. King Abdullah paid for Fatima and Zahra's evacuation from Baghdad and used his position to organise a one-off cross-border flight over military zones. He's not best pleased this morning, having just been told that Haider wants to take the twins and his family back to Baghdad. Don't be in a hurry, he tells Haider. Give the babies enough time here for treatment. The king endows each set of twins with a lifetime trust fund. It is solely for their use when they become independent of their parents. No one outside the immediate royal circle knows just how much those trust funds hold.
رسالتي للعالم ككل رسالة المحبة والوفاء للجميع.
I believe that it is incumbent upon the strong to help the weak. I also believe that, God willing, we will be able, through dialogue and cooperation and understanding, we will be able to achieve peace and tranquility throughout the world. I also hope that we will be able to perform more such operations and save more lives. I believe that through dialogue and through peace, we can do many things.
كذلك واجبهم الوطني.
Twin sisters Daria and Olga play in the snow close to their home in Poland before setting out again for Riyadh. They've not been back to the National Guard Hospital since January 2005, when they were separated in an 18-hour operation. The girls were born sharing a backbone and were also joined at the pelvis, colon and other organs. They were 13 months old when they were cut apart. It took the doctors 4 hours to divide their spinal cords. Afterwards, their mother, Vyacheslava Dombrovska, told the doctors, "Now I can buy them their own clothes." There have been conjoined twins for as long as twins have been born, but their treatment has varied down the ages, from being killed or banished to crude attempts at detachment.
In the Middle Ages, they were regarded as actually devils, and they used to be sent them outside the cities because they think that they will affect normal children.
Dr. Rabir is the father of twins. He's published a study of the history of conjoined babies.
I found that one of the earliest cases of conjoined twins happened, I think, in the mid-7th century. And at that time, they had 2 conjoined boys, and the Islamic scholars at that time, they were asking questions: are we dealing with one person or 2? What's going to happen to the will? What's going to happen? Can we sacrifice one for the other?
1400 years later, these elementary questions are still asked of conjoined twins. The Iraqi babies, Fatima and Zahra, will not have the easiest of lives, but for now, infancy masks all problems. They know no different. They may never marry. They will never have their own children. But they will make friends with other youngsters, though they're unlikely to be part of the run and chase that is childhood. But they will be alive. How essential to life are 2 legs and a husband, and who can define a quality of a life that someone else must live?
We have to look not only at the death and life, we should look also at the quality of life. Now, many people, when you ask them about the quality of life, they would rather die and not live with a major handicap.
1, 2, 3. Yang manakah?
Language learning and reading time at a school near Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In the front row, Ahmed and Mohammed, 2 9-year-olds, shouting in unison. A normal day at a normal school for these twins, unthinkable 5 years ago when the children were born conjoined. They became part of the Saudi success story when they were just 4 years old. Each twin has been given an artificial leg, but the boys prefer to scoot themselves along at ground level. It's no longer a novelty for their classmates. It's as regular a school life as the twins can have. Their home is in a nearby village. The children play outside, though, only on rare occasions. The heat is just too much for them. The boys are extremely mobile within the confines of home, but they need to be monitored with care. One has a permanent colostomy. They both need daily medication. They suffer from asthma and they're prone to infection. And their father says it's no hardship.
At school, they can go up the staircase by themselves, but after school I pick them up again. I don't carry them around much as I want them to be able to fend for themselves.
Before the operation, if one falls ill, the other one has to tag along. It's pitiful to watch. Now even if one of them falls ill, the other one can still go about his daily routine. It was much harder before.
The twins travelled thousands of miles before they had surgery. They were joined at the chest, pelvis and abdomen. Taken to London, the parents were told the cost of the operation would be around £150,000. This is not a rich family, so they came home. And then came the invitation from Riyadh.
I just want them to succeed in life. With no education, life only gets harder. At least I want them to be able to read. This way, they can fend for themselves in the future.
I just have a message for parents who have children with disabilities. Don't neglect them and be embarrassed of them.
The boys' successful operation didn't make the family's problems disappear, just easier to cope with. Of material wealth, this family has little, but here there is a closeness that comes from meeting adversity head-on and prevailing.
Okay, you ready? Ready. Muhammad Iman, wait. Muhammad Iman, tak mau duduk.
Haida is happy, but unsettled and uncertain deep inside. At the hospital, the twins have medical help on tap. They can stay here for as long as necessary. The king has offered to fly their grandparents in and give them all a home and another life here. But Haida yearns for Baghdad. There's something pulling him homewards, and he's finding it hard to resist.
I'm the son of Iraq. I cannot run away with my two girls and forget my country, or my family, or my brothers, or forget the Iraqi people.
Haida doesn't have work in Baghdad, and there's little chance of a job in Riyadh. At least here, though, his family is safe. Those who can are queuing up to leave Iraq. Haida understands everyone's concern for him and his family, and he's anguished by his homesickness. The hospital will continue with liver transplants, hip replacements, open heart surgery, whatever else the patients need. But the hospital remains a sanctuary of hope for those less fortunate families. These twins from Cameroon had, according to their parents, little hope of finding a hospital to take them or affording treatment until they were told about the National Guard hospital. They were conjoined like the Iraqi sisters, and at the age of 13 months, they were surgically parted. Success breeds custom, and in Ward 7 there's more work waiting. Twins from Oman, the King's offered his help. It's a familiar story to the team here.
Nothing better than seeing a child who's crying smile. This is really something that you cannot buy with money.
For all the conjoined children, privacy had been non-existent. Two minds controlling one body, an individual thought counting for nothing. As they grew up, every movement would have been planned and agreed, if they grew up. To turn her back, to walk away, to hide and seek, to be alone, to want to do something different tomorrow, to be luxuriously selfish today, to say no without offence, to be yourself. All had been denied from birth. So forgive the celebration. Survival for these twins and their parents means they're a little bit more than special. It's not togetherness that counts here, it's the freedom to wear your own clothes, to sit on different chairs, to stand either side of a king. King Abdullah gave the party for all the twins who'd been through the Riyadh programme, and to make it doubles all round, he also brought in another king, Abdullah, his neighbour from Jordan. It's almost 5 months since the king saw Fatima and Zahra. I see they're growing, he said to Haida and Majda. This was a mini United Nations party, a unique gathering of conjoined twins who found self-determination in a desert city. What these twins have now, the way they are, Fatima and Zahra simply accept. It is a child's way. As with all the former conjoined twins, there will be constant health checks and support needed. What is a basic everyday right for most people is, to all of these twins, the gift of separate lives. They will never have to stand in each other's shadow or anyone else's. Togetherness is now a choice.